Good evening. If I give you a list of your strengths and a list of your weaknesses right now, which would you focus on first? Okay? Just think about that question. And I want you to clap. If you focus on your weaknesses first, go ahead and clap. All right, if you focus on your strengths first, go ahead and clap. I don't believe you. What we found at Gallup, we did a survey of folks and we asked them that exact question. And we found that 70% of Americans would focus on their weaknesses first. 30% would focus on their strengths. 70% on the weaknesses, 30% on the strengths. Now, what that says to me is that in society, we're focusing on the wrong things. We're focusing on the wrong things. We're focusing on weaknesses when we should be focusing on what we do best. We're focusing on what's wrong with us when when we should be focusing on what's strong in us. I want to talk to you about what's right with you. I want to talk to you about what you do best and how that promotes your flourishing. I believe that families, businesses, schools, they're all at their strongest when they're focused on what's right with us and investing in what's best with us. Now, there are three reasons why we focus on weaknesses rather than strengths. One you've already heard about. Bad is stronger than good. Bad is stronger than good. As a positive psychologist, it pains me to say that. Bad is stronger than good, but it's true. In fact, what we found out through psychological studies and behavioral economics is that negative information, negative behavior, negative emotions have a deeper effect than positive information, positive behaviors, and positive emotions. So, if you lose $100, you're more devastated than if you find $100. If you have sadness, that trumps joy. And if you experience someone who smirks at you, that's more powerful than a smile. You also, if you have a bad flight, that's better fodder for a conversation than if you have a great one. And weaknesses are more salient than strengths. The second reason that we are so fixated on weaknesses is that we have been educated out of focusing on our strengths by our parents and our teachers, by us. We've been educated out of focusing on what's right with us. Now, let me give you another question to prove this point. All right, so imagine that you're a kid again, okay? And you bring these grades home. Ready? 2 A's, a B, a C, and a low grade such as a D or an F. Are you getting a little nervous now? All right. What would your parents focus on first? I heard one, definitely the A's, and the rest of the F's. All right. 77% of caring American parents said they would focus on the F's, the D or the F first. And only 7% of American parents said they would focus on the A's first. Now, let me give you some more data. We just polled about 1 million students last year, asking them to what extent do you get to do what you do best every day at school. 34% of fifth graders gave a strongly agree to that item, that they got to do what they do best every day at school. Only 17% of 10th graders gave a strongly agree to that item. With each passing year at school, you're less likely to get to do what you do best every day. Now, what I think is that as teachers and parents, we're too focused on remediation and prevention and not focused enough on excellence and promotion. Now, there's a third reason that we are hyper-focused, fixated, and obsessed with weakness. And that's because we are concerned that we're going to get too big of an ego by focusing on our strengths. Fortunately, we have middle school, high school cheerleaders and bosses to keep us focused on our weaknesses. So that will never truly happen. Now, I talk about strengths. I want to tell you a little bit about my strengths journey. When I was a little kid, I thought I had 2 superpowers. One was the power to climb walls like Spider-Man. Now, I was 7 years old. Spider-Man was on TV in a live-action series, and every week I'd watch Spider-Man, And every morning after I'd watch Spider-Man, I'd stand in the bathroom, I'd lock the door, stand in the bathroom, run and jump against the tile wall, and flap and flail and try to climb the tile wall like Spider-Man. It never happened. It never happened. I never got to the ceiling. Now, I tried year after year, and I got a little higher. Little did I realize I was getting a little taller. But I tried year after year, and I never could climb the wall like Spider-Man. So eventually, I gave up on that superpower. But I had another superpower. And that superpower was mental time travel. I could time travel. So when I was a little kid, me and my friends, I would think about us being bigger kids. And I would think about us riding bigger bikes. And I'd think about us playing baseball and t-ball instead of t-ball. And I'd think about us talking to girls. And then as I got older, time travel stayed with me, and I thought about driving to school, and I thought about playing on bigger fields, and I thought about kissing girls. This time travel thing was awesome. And as I would time travel, I would develop these memories of the future that would help me become a better big kid. And those memories served me well time and time again. Now, of course, you know, we can all time travel. We all have an imagination that sets us apart from other creatures. And that imagination has served me well throughout my life, and it has served you well throughout your life. But for me, that was a strength. And it's one I'll talk about more. But first, I want to talk about how we develop that strength through make-believe. As kids, we play make-believe, and we develop this power of imagination. And my son, when he was about 5 years old, I asked him a little bit about his future life. I asked him, what do you want your life to be like in the future? And he said, well, I want to have 4 kids and a wife. And he's an only child, so I can understand he wanted more friends around, and so he'll have them when he has a wife. He said, I have 4 kids and a wife. I said, what do they look like? He said, they all have dark hair. I said, the kids and the wife, they all have dark hair. And this caught me off guard because my son's mom, Parish's mom, has blonde hair. So I said to him, son, your wife has dark hair, but your mommy has blonde hair. And he said to me with a smile, does she really? And his imagination served him well in lots of different ways as a youngster. But then, back to thinking about the future, I actually took a test called the Clifton Strengths Finder. I don't know if you've ever taken it, but my number one strength on the Clifton Strengths Finder was futuristic. So I have the strength of futuristic, and I can think about the future a little bit better than most. And it serves me well in my life from day in and day out. And it makes me feel stronger. And my mentor told me, he said, you could work your whole life on developing that one strength. So I've done that. And in one way I've done that is trying to be a strength spotter for other people. So I found this guy at work who was a lot like me, and he developed this strength of futuristic a lot like mine was. And I asked him, I said, do you have futuristic? He said, yes, I do. I said, tell me about how you got this job. And his name is AJ. And AJ said, I was sitting in the hotel lobby when our boss walked in, and he sat across from me. And I introduced myself. I said, hi, my name is AJ. And then our boss named Jim said, hi, my name is Jim. And AJ said, Jim, what do you do? And Jim said, I'm a head of a consulting company. And AJ said, well, do you have a job for a guy like me? And Jim kind of laughed and said, well, AJ, these days you have to go online and apply for a job. You have to take an assessment, and then you have to interview for the job. And AJ boldly said, but Jim, you know me. We've been hanging out. How about we skip over all the informal stuff and go straight to the interview? Sure enough, AJ convinced Jim to do a formal interview of him at the office. So time passed. AJ showed up at the appointed time and date and just rocked the interview. He knew everything about the company, where the company was going, where the company had been, and he really impressed Jim. And Jim said, I'm going to get in trouble with HR for doing this, but you're hired. Now just go finish middle school, high school, and college, and come back and the job is yours. AJ was 12 years old when he approached Jim in that hotel lobby. And he had the futuristic frame of mind to pursue what was next in his life. And he was able to conjure up this image of the future and put together a plan to make it happen today. And that's his strength. Now, you know AJ's strength, you know my strength. What are your strengths? What do you do best? What are the things that make you feel strong? That's what I wish I could sit with each of you and talk to you about what your strengths are, but we just don't have the time. But think about what are the things that make you feel strong. But what I can do is I can teach you how to be a strength spotter. So you can be a strength spotter just like me. So starting today, you can do these 3 things to help you be a strength spotter. Number 1, you can develop a strengths mindset. Now, that's not about wearing rose-colored glasses or seeing the glasses half full. It's all about believing that each and every person you encounter has strengths that you can name and nurture. Number 2, it's all about catching people in moments of excellence. Catching people in moments of excellence. So when you catch people doing extraordinary things in ordinary times, it's having a second and saying, what you just did is extraordinary. Last night I had dinner with a friend, and he's so kind and so generous in so many ways, but at one point he went to our waiter and said, James, you provide the best service for us tonight. Thank you so much. Catching people doing extraordinary things in ordinary times. And then finally, is naming and nurturing the strength that that person had to achieve the extraordinary. Those are the 3 steps to being a strength spotter. And I think all of you can do those steps and become better at making sure that you're naming and nurturing the strengths of others. I want to end with a parable, and it's an old parable about a little rabbit. It's called Let the Rabbits Run. Have you heard the parable before? All right, Let the Rabbits Run. It's about a little rabbit and his friends, the squirrel, the duck, and the fish, and the eagle. And they decide they want to be smart like American school kids. So they're going to build a school. And what do you need to have a school? Well, you need faculty, and you need a curriculum. So they got grown-up animals to come together and be on their faculty, and then they established a curriculum. And the curriculum was to have running, swimming, tree climbing, and assorted activities. And that one of those was flying. And running, swimming, tree climbing, and flying. And the rabbit, you can tell this is not going to go well for the rabbit, right? All right. So the rabbit wakes up the first day of school and is just so excited. And he combs his ears and he hops to school. And he's just so excited because the first class he's attending is running. And running, he just goes lights out. He's just a fantastic runner. He goes up the hill and back and just does great. And he says, school is a wonderful place. This is a place where I can do my very best. And then the next class is swimming. And he sees the water and he just gets really nervous. And he tells the instructor, rabbits don't swim. Wait, rabbits don't swim. And the instructor said, well, today we're covering the history of swimming, so don't worry about it. But tomorrow you have to go into the pool. Rabbit was pretty concerned about this, but he went on with his day. Next was tree climbing, which was pretty easy because they climbed up a tree that had fallen since it was the first day of class. And then finally they had flying, and the rabbit was put in remedial flying, and which was jumping off the top of a rock and flapping his arms as hard as he could, but he was encouraged because his teacher said if he tried hard enough that one day he would fly. So he goes home, he's not sure what to make of things, he's really fixated on this swimming class. So he's concerned, he's bothered. The next morning he wakes up, he's not as peppy as he was the day before. He drags himself to school, he's at school, he runs up the mountain, up the hill and back, he laps everybody, but it's just not happy about it at all because he knows what's next. It's swimming. He goes to swimming class and the instructor said, today we jump into the pool. And the rabbit said, no, my parents never learned how to swim. And the instructor with all the wisdom said, This will bother you and hurt you now, but in 5 years you'll be glad you did this. And the instructor said, you jump in or you flunk. So the rabbit jumped into the pool, and sunk, and came up, and sunk again, and came up. And then the instructor grabbed him by the ears and pulled him out. And then there he was, if you've ever seen a wet rabbit, all scrawny and nasty looking. And all the other animals teased him and laughed at him. So the rabbit slinks away and hides. But he makes it back for the next class, which is tree climbing. They're climbing up that same broken tree. And he makes it to the top. But then he gets to flying, and he just can't go anymore. So the instructor sends him to the counselor's office. The wise old owl is the counselor. The rabbit explains his problem to the counselor and says, I just can't handle this anymore. I want to quit school. The counselor says, I know what your problem is. You're doing really well in running, but you just don't like swimming. So here's what we'll do. We'll get you out of running, and we'll give you 2 sections of swimming. And the rabbit just threw up. He was done with school. And he walked away from the counselor's office and walked home, and he wondered, wouldn't it be great if there was a place where rabbits could run, and fish could swim, and birds could fly? Wouldn't that be a wonderful place indeed? Wouldn't it be great if you find a place in school or work where you can use your strengths? Wouldn't it be great if schools tested as rigorously our talents as they test our content knowledge? Wouldn't it be great if businesses built teams that were strengths-based to exploit the best in each of us? Wouldn't it be great if someone found you exceptional and said why? And wouldn't it be great if you did the same? Thank you so much.